G'day guys, wanted to give you an update on our canal front renovation. So we've been on site here for just over 2 weeks and the team are absolutely smashing this one out. So I want to give you a little bit of an insight into what goes on a huge renovation like this. So we've come in, the boys have done all the bulk demolition. So we've stripped the ceiling, stripped the walls. You'll see behind me here, we've taken out a couple of load-bearing walls. So we've got some temporary structural steel in and some props to hold the floor up while we start building our new walls. So because this one's so huge and we're basically taking out every internal load-bearing wall as well as the entire back wall of the house, we've got to do it in stages. So what we've done on this job, we've come through, we've done the easy bulk demolition, and then we've come back through and done what we call a detailed demolition. On all of our jobs, new or renovation, we like to set up what I call square lines. So on any job, it's really, really important right from the outset to get things nice and square, because if you get things right at the base, the foundations, the whole house comes up and it's all perfect. Especially when you start getting into things like your tile setouts and that in your bathrooms, you want everything nice and square and you want to make sure everything works and looks the way it should look. So the boys have done a great job. So we've got an existing garage out the front. They've had to do a lot of measurements, work out what's best to line up with. And then we've run these square lines through the entire job. And we've put permanent marks on the slab in certain areas because those lines are going to disappear during the works, but it means that we can always keep going back to the same locations, remarking those square lines and make sure that anytime anything is getting marked out, we're working off the same reference line. So it's really, really important for me to make sure those square lines are one of the first things that we do on all of our jobs. So now we've done, off of those lines, we've done our detailed demolition. So we're now marking out exactly on certain walls where we've got to cut them, where we've got to demolish them, where we've got to put holes in for new windows and doors and those types of things. And then we've come through last week and the boys have done a detailed takeoff of our structural steel. So because we're working, there's a huge amount of structural steel in this job to support the existing structure. So being such a big renovation, it's impossible to get those measurements off the drawings because we've got to figure out on site, where's load bearing, do we need to run it through a wall, does it sit on an existing wall, where can we put the steel post to make sure it's hidden in a wall. So now that we've done our square lines, we've marked it out, we can work all that structural steel out perfectly. So we've placed our orders for that last week and doing that very on. So all of our schedules will work to a process. And so by doing the detailed demolition, setting the square lines, working that steel out, means that we can get our steel order in so that our steel gets delivered in time for when we need it on site. So now while we're waiting on that structural steel, and look, this is what goes on behind the scenes, and this is why I like to explain all this in these videos, because all this stuff is happening behind the scenes. Like there is so much detail, so much time that goes into scheduling and ordering and talking to people on the phone and organising, having site meetings, going to suppliers, sitting down with them, going through our drawings, because our supervisor is incredible. Like he does a lot of the shop drawings for our steel, together with our guys on site and myself. So it's a big process, and all that stuff is happening off site to make sure that on site the work keeps progressing. So in the current times we're in the industry, it's really important to make sure if you are thinking about building or renovating, you're dealing with a builder that has processes and systems to make sure this all stays on track. So while we're waiting on that structural steel, we'll show you some lines, but we've done the detailed marking out of where we're extending this house. We had our concrete cutter in here yesterday, so he's gone through, he's cut lines in block walls, he's cut all the existing slabs up on the outside of the house. We've cut them into smaller squares because we can only get a little tiny excavator on this job. So we've cut them into size pieces that the excavator is going to be able to come through the house, pick all them up, take them out and put them in the bin. So that's all going to start happening next week. And then we're going to move on to our new slabs and foundations and those types of things. So for 2 weeks on site here, we've only had a couple of guys on site because we're just absolutely stretched at the moment with the amount of work on. But they are absolutely nailing it. We're still on schedule. And yeah, things are really going to start progressing. So stay tuned on this one because it is an incredibly large project. Like from the outside of the building, there's not going to be a huge amount of change, but internally, this place is just getting completely torn apart and it is going to be brand new from top to bottom.